Voice is a lot more than just a sound.
Oh, yes.
There's a frequencies of one's soul. You can sense it and feel it.
Hmm.
Their intentions, and it just so much for me. Voice is the first thing I pay attention when I talk to someone.
Well, you have a beautiful voice.
I wasn't in comfort with it for many years until I realized that actually anything lower than my voice, I mean higher than my voice, I can't stand. Then I started to love my voice.
Your voice is beautiful. It's soothing and does reflect your soul. I really do believe that. It definitely reflects one's spirit in the moment. When people are tense or angry, or you can hear what's going on for
Or
them, right?
insecure, yeah,
Or insecure, right? When
pretend
they're
to be opposite, but you can tell by listening to them that they're not
right.
confident as they pretend to be. So voice says a lot about a person.
I think so. I'm in agreement with you. It's just I never really thought about how I use my voice when I'm just in conversation. I don't think about it anymore. I learned how to use my voice with narration and articulation with broadcasting. I studied NLP to a degree to learn about pacing and rhythm with regards to how to voice these recordings. You know, it's very useful for that. But in conversation, it's a different thing. It's dynamic. You know, sometimes my voice is more rapid in my speech when I'm excited, just like anybody else. But there seems to be a rootedness that communicates as well, that doesn't become overbearing. And yet, with my wife and I, and because of the dynamic of our relationship, I can be just as animated and she might respond to it differently. So it really depends on who we are, where we are, and our receptivity to one another in a given moment with regards to a certain situation. What is your relationship to the unknown? I've never asked you that question. Do you mind if I
It,
ask?
oh, I don't mind, obviously. It's I love the unknown to a certain extent, but you never know what you get, and you never know what. It also depends unknown of what, right? One thing, if you're going into depth of your um, subconscious mind, and unknown could be a lot of scary things,
Mm-hmm.
which I had to deal with in early stages of out of body practice. So I can relate to that by saying that I'm not afraid, and I've learned to face it. When it comes to a depth of certain part of me, which creates an unknown in terms of what's next or what takes space that just empty, I wouldn't say that I'm not comfortable with it, but I wouldn't say I'm comfortable with it. So it's like um, I deal with it as it comes. And I think I often go through certain transitions where I kind of, probably not a right word, but heal certain parts of my personality to transform and become something different from what I was. Or maybe some not different, but more expanded. Um, in a psychological sense of things. But no, I'm not making sense. No?
No, I understood you perfectly.
Mhm. So I don't know. I don't know.
There you are relating to the unknown.
Yeah, I don't know, because I know one thing about my personality is that I'm very adaptive, and yet I'm absolutely not adaptive to things I don't want to go through. If
Oh, so
something
there's a
happens
big, let
naturally,
me see if I understood that correctly. So you know you're adaptive, but there are things that you say no to with
I mean,
adaptation.
adaptive. Let's say if life throws me into a situation and I know there is no way out but to adapt to it, to go through it, let's say with less damage, I can be super adaptive. I think that comes from genetics, like Jewish genetics, because we learn to adapt to where we are, right? But if someone wants to put me in a situation that I absolutely don't want to go into it, I have a hard time adapting to it. Like if I have a choice not to do it, because I don't see any like need for myself to go into that situation, although there is probably a learning experience in that, but I'm living this life, and this life has goals, and sometimes I just don't want to do things that other people think is right for me, because I set goals for myself and I don't want to deviate from that.
I completely
You know?
understand you.
So it's hard for me to deviate from the path and adapt to something that I don't want to adapt to. So here, yeah, maybe that's where my limiting belief system in play.
I don't know if it's a limiting belief system so much as a willingness or a motivation. What's my motivation to have to adapt? If you have no choice, then it's a choiceless choice, right?
Right.
I just have to adapt. But if you have choices and you've already made a bunch of choices that are pursuant to one particular goal, and somebody's trying to get you to divert from that to go do something they might have a goal of, that sounds to me like a boundary.
Yeah. Yes.
And a
And
good sense of self, yeah?
right. I that's how I see it. I had my girlfriend tell me that I might have ADHD because I get bored learning about something I'm not interested.
Mm-hmm.
I, in a way, I found it offensive that she just gave me such a
A label.
right. And from the other way, I started to explore. I thought, well, maybe she's correct.
Mm-hmm.
And reading a lot of stuff about it, I realized that I have nothing to do with that particular label she ascribed on me. But a lot of people see me that way. And I see that they don't have a particular goals. And that's why they're kind of all over the place, interested in many different things without going in depth into something in particular. So yes, when you don't have specific things you're interested in, you might be interested in everything because you're just about to gain a little bit of knowledge here there. But when you have a specific interest in something, I would rather put all my energy, because that's what drives me, and this doesn't drive me. Why would I waste my energy? I realize that I have a very, very limited resources as a human being, right? I can, and that could be also a limiting belief system, because I've learned now that I've changed myself a bit, I have a lot more resources. I feel a lot better. But from the moment of now, my power is in the moment of now. Here, how I feel about myself now. And I know how much I can do now, right? And I know that I can only do this much, and people expect me to do this much. I just don't have that resource, and it's useless for me. And I'm not going to get into that because majority think that I should be interested in everything, not just in particular things. So, yes, I've learned to set boundaries, I guess, with what I get myself involved to. It looks not healthy for many people.
Well, I don't know you that well, I guess, because I see you as very multidimensional and not limited in a lot of ways. I don't know what expectations others are putting on you, but obviously you don't share those same expectations. You have your own agenda and goals.
A lot of people project. That was a projection from that person coming, because if you analyze the way their expansion in the world is, I can tell they don't even do half of what I do. And like growing up, we were taught that you cannot do everything 100% if you put yourself into multiple enterprises, right?
Right.
And I lived with that belief system for the longest time. Until I realized it's a limiting belief system. I can really put myself fully into many things if I'm passionate about them. And it doesn't really, if you do things right, you don't need 100% of your time in that direction, right?
Right.
So yeah, I do lots of multiple things, and some people see it as spreading all over the place and not building something bigger out of one thing,
Are these friends of yours from the former Soviet Union?
Yeah. Yes.
So in their mindset, you want to set one or two goals and do 100%.
Right. If you're a real estate agent, you should be just selling homes and putting all your energy into it, because that's what brings the biggest buck, which is probably right, but I would see myself as not actualizing many other gifts I have. Like it could be a creative work, but most of the time it's not, and I do need a creative outlet. So I do things more that maybe don't bring me that much money, but allows me to express myself creatively, which is as important as making money.
It is.
Right? So the important thing is to understand what will satisfy you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because when I was doing real estate full time, I was not satisfied. I was stressed most of the time because it's just a lot to take at once. So.
I have friends in that business, and they are constantly working, and they can make money, and if they keep at it, but if they slack off at all, it just drops.
Yeah, that's how it is, and it did drop for me while I was doing something else, and it's okay.
You'll forgive me for not seeing you as having ADHD.
Right.
You're just multidimensional, and it's what makes you passionate. Passion is a strong motivation. If you're a passionate person, then you're going to be motivated by passionate things that will allow you to put whatever energy you want to put into it.
Oh, yeah. It just connects you. It's like a portal to endless resource of energy, to get it done.
It is, unfortunately for me, the older I get, the more endless the more I feel the end cap of that endless resource. I don't have the energy I once had, which is amazing to me. I work out, I eat right, I do things that are supposed to keep your energy up. And I'm very passionate about the things that I do. But I used to work weekdays, weekends, day and night, and sleep 8 hours because my life was fun, right? So I didn't need 8 hours of fun in order to balance my work life, right, with my real life. Unfortunately, I don't have that kind of energy anymore. I have to take a nap now in the middle of the day, about 3 o'clock, so that I can continue. And instead of working till 2 a.m., I might work until 11 p.m. and maybe play guitar for about 2 hours or read something, to keep my skills up or learning. And that's it. That's all I have. Whereas I used to work 18-hour days and just don't have that energy anymore. You don't have that problem, I'm sure.
I do. Well, first of all, I don't work that much, as it seems. I don't work that much. And I know how to pace myself. I don't do like hours and days of work. Because everything I do, it's based on my planning and my schedule, right? Nobody creates a schedule for me. I would say that I just work 3-4 hours a day, and then the rest I take it easy. And I do nap for years.
So you're an accomplished napper.
Yeah.
I know.
Years. I call it meditation, but then I fall asleep.
Yeah, I understand. Well, I usually get into meditation before falling asleep. I program myself to some degree, but that's not my meditation practice. I just know that I can use the hypnagogic state before I fall asleep to program something.
Yeah, I do that all the time with the sleep now.
Right.
Before I go to sleep, I do like a breathing exercises, and then I try to meditate, maybe do some healing on myself, and then I fall asleep.
Mm-hmm. So you're always staying busy and using your time wisely then?
Yeah, I would say so. And what I was talking about, the endless energy, I was talking more about the drive to get it done. It's not the physical kind of energy that gets you like working 24/7. I mean, the desire to get it done. And it's all about, how would I put that? Like, let's say you have an idea, and for me, it's like it becomes like a fixed idea until I get it done. Mm-hmm. It's like I ignore everything else until I get this done.
Right.
And I have that energy coming from somewhere when I really desire to accomplish something.
It's a motivation again. Yeah. It's a motivation and a focus again.
Right, a motivation and a focus, yes. But when I don't have anything I want to accomplish, I feel like I'm dying. That's how it feels. It feels like as if there's no pranic energy for me to continue this, because I don't think I'll ever like the idea of how majority people retire and do nothing. I think that's when you die out, really, as a person.
I'll have plenty of things to do when I retire. I just won't be.
Well, yeah, I don't know what people mean by retire. Maybe it's their 9-to-5 job. Mm-hmm. But I also have this idea, which is, I don't know, could be genetic, that if I have a gift of something, for example, I make soap, I make skincare products, I want to sell it. Mm-hmm. I want to see some sort of monetary
reward. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I just, even though maybe I don't really, we always need money, but I don't always have to make a business out of it, but that's how my mind works. I always have to put it in a way that I can sell this. Mm-hmm. Even when I have new ideas, I always look at the ways of how I can monetize this. I don't know if it's wrong, but that's how my mind works. Otherwise, I don't feel the precious moment about it. Like, it's a skill. I cannot be like an artist that draws and hopes that somehow somebody one day will recognize them and pay for their work. It wouldn't drive me.
I understand. Yeah. I mean,
I don't know where it comes from, but I have that. I realize that about myself.
Well, and I also, to add on to that, because I understand that mindset very well, that comes from me because I learned early on in my life that if I was going to work for a living, I better really like what I'm doing. And I did some soul searching, and what do I really like? Well, I really like music. Okay, well, music is going to be the thing that I end up doing. And I did it. And the only way to do it and continue doing it is to get paid for it, right?
Right.
So I got paid for it. But I found that there was a limitation in that for me, that it wasn't as satisfying artistically. So that's when I found recording, because playing music that people want to hear, right, is the way that you get paid for it. It didn't satisfy my creative need to write music and record it. And when I started writing and recording music, I found myself really fascinated with the recording studio and recording process. Now, all of a sudden, I could be creative in my own environment and still make money as a recording engineer, right? Because other people want to record their music too. Now that opened up doors for things like broadcasting. Next thing I knew, I was on the radio, just by happenstance, a bunch of synchronicities. And I loved doing that. That was very creative too. And paid fairly well, and I could work anywhere in the world. But it was the Monroe Institute, when Bob just found me in Charlottesville, that captured my imagination beyond anything. And it has nothing to do with music per se. It's all about sound and the effect on brainwaves and consciousness. I got paid for it, and it was also very inspiring, but it wasn't my artistic work. I mean, my thumbprints are all over it, but I didn't create it. So after doing that for 13 years, I found myself getting to a point where my creative need, your limitations are now putting caps on my need to create something, and I know where I want to go with this work, which is why I left then. I understand you completely. You need to feed your soul, and you need to be paid for it.
Right. Maybe it comes from the idea that I don't have 9-to-5 job, and I still need to make a living. It could be just a survival mechanism that I want to put it into, like a facet of another income.
Right. So there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. I think it sounds to me like balance.
It allowed me to work on my skills that I never thought I had. And so having an idea and putting it, materializing it, and then marketing it and selling it, which to me, it's not the money that comes from it important, is that people see value in it and they actually pay money that they worked for. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
It's a whole kind of a skill of, there's a teacher I follow, he has this idea that everything comes from it has three stages, like its idea, which is creation, then the creation goes through realization, and then when you know that this no longer the process of dissolution.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people have ideas, and not lots of people can put it in actual what's the like material thing. You can have an idea, but you need to learn how to organize and focus your energy to actually put that in the material thing, you know?
Yes.
I think through that desire to see value by getting paid for it, I've learned to create a skill where I take the idea, put it in material mean, and kind of let it live in a public. Like, you know, like I'm probably not using the right words, but I have this vision in my head how I do it. And I'm not, I don't have the right English words to put them in, to vocalize it properly.
And you pattern it in your head, and you plan it out, and you create a formula for it, and then follow the formula. I think that's the way to do it. I agree with you completely. I mean, I understand you completely. And yes, a lot of people, you know, they get an idea in their head and they get very excited about it, and then they drop it like a hot potato because they don't like the obstacles. They don't know how to formulate something. They don't know how to work with the tension that is created from the obstacles. They don't know how to move through them. Your adaptability is very helpful in that way, isn't it? Like, you know, an unforeseen thing comes into your plan and throws a wrench in your plan. You adapt. You work around it, right?
Yes, I do.
But you have to be motivated. You have to love what you're doing.
Oh yeah, for sure, because that's what makes me want to do things. Otherwise, you can't move me if I don't want to do it.
No, I understand. I understand that completely. You have the soul of an artist, but you're also the head of a business person.
And I spent my childhood doing everything everyone wanted me to do. Mm-hmm. After I realized that I don't want to live that way, and early on, I knew as soon as I become adult enough that I can move out, mm-hmm. I'll be living my life the way I want to live it.
Right.
Although there's still some sort of like remnants of what my parents taught me, because once in a while I hear my siblings say that, oh, you're selfish, you live for yourself, or you don't do this, you don't do that, because they just want, again, that all that energy that I was putting into them as opposed to putting for my own good. So it's more like they victimizing me in order to get me back on track doing what they want.
So, they're working?
No, not anymore. But what I'm saying is it took me a while to work through those, what's the word? When you feel guilty, guilt associated with it.
Yeah, guilt patterns, right?
Sometimes you don't recognize whether it's really a guilt trip, or maybe they're right and I am selfish. I don't know.
Do you feel selfish?
No, I don't feel selfish. I think everyone should be selfish like me.
Yeah. You're that
selfish like me, then they will be happy in life.
I agree with you. I think it's important to, family's important to me, and friends, and I try to help people. But I'm also very, very aware that I only have so much time and energy in my life, and I have goals, and I want to pursue them. So I do. If that's perceived as selfish, I apologize to no one. Because in the end, I have to be able to live for myself in addition to treating and loving the people that I love in my life and helping them to the best of my ability. But I can't give away myself in order to do that. I have to be happy with myself.
Right, and family members need to also recognize that they're adults and should take responsibility for their own life and not hope and still wait some things that I've done when I was young, which we had to do because we were young, and now everyone is on their own. No,
That's right. And it's
so
okay to be self-responsible.
well, I think every person has to be self-sufficient.
I agree.
Self-sufficiency is first thing before you even try to evolve into any direction. Because if you don't know how to take responsibility for yourself, then how would you do anything with responsibility outside of yourself?
It's a great question.
So
I completely agree with you. What stimulates within you is you hear that little bell of intuition, like an idea coming down your way, and get ready for this route. And somebody throws it to you and you catch it. And then it moves something within you that needs to be formulated, which then can be manifested and used and monetized, which is always a good thing, in my opinion. Not because it enables you to be self-responsible only, but it's also a means of exchange. You know, if you give me a service or a good, and you just give it to me out of the goodness of your heart, my experience is not necessarily with me, but my experience with people is they don't value it as much, right?
oh
Whereas
yeah,
if they
I
pay a
know.
lot of money for it, then they value it more because they paid for it and that came from their own sweat. That's a boundary issue. All of these things, in my opinions, come from the concept of boundaries.
Yeah, but I hear a lot, and lately quite more than I want, that as spiritual person you should always do a service, free service.
You can, if you want.
I don't. I
That's,
don't.
then don't do it.
But they make me feel guilty. Some part of me says, "Oh, maybe I'm so greedy," although I'm not a greedy person,
Uh-huh,
that I don't see value in it. I just don't
uh-huh,
see value in it because I tried, especially with. Um, I mean, I can give away my products. I have no problem with that. Sometimes, if I see a person um, doesn't appreciate my stuff because they didn't try it, I might give it to them just to try it, and then they come back and buy it, right?
mm-hmm,
But when it comes to my healing services, I
mm-hmm.
don't feel like I have to do anything free.
Why would you?
But lots of like there is this belief system within community that you have to. It's like a service to others.
Which is why I say you can if you want, but you don't have to.
Okay.
It's an exchange, right?
It
I
is
look
an
at it.
exchange. That's why if someone, okay, I had a case where someone from Holland um, asked me, which I didn't know the person, it was on Instagram. He said, "I'm not feeling good and I don't have money to pay you. Can you do healing on me?" I
Hmm.
did it because I just sense that person needs it and it's more important than me getting money for it. But me like offering to others to do it for free so they can appreciate what I have, what gifts I have to give them.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't need to prove myself anything anymore. It's like, sorry, my computer is dying. I'm just turning it on.
No worries.
So I think the idea behind it to do service
Mm-hmm.
is somewhat related to their insecurity in what they give has value.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of want to give it like, like I don't know, you made a bread, you want them to try it before they buy it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like I need to do that.
You don't.
So Okay,
And
so you just gave me a feedback on how I was feeling, because part of me was saying maybe I'm incorrect, and I probably should be giving it away for free.
that would be a belief that I would never impose upon you.
Mhm.
You are perfectly at liberty to do whatever you like with your energy. Some people can decide that that's selfish. Some people can decide that that isn't spiritual. Some people can decide that that's a wonderful boundary and a sign of self respect for the energy. I mean, there are a lot of ways to look at this. It's all perspective, right? The question is, what does it feel like to you? In your case, you met somebody from Poland. For some reason, they didn't have the money, or you were, wanting to connect with this person on that level and to give yourself that way. And you did. It's kind of like demanding, I don't know, sex in a monogamous relationship. You can't demand somebody give you sex. It has to happen, right? And it doesn't have to be reciprocal, at least not in my world. You know, if my lover wants an orgasm, I'm happy to give her one. And do I need one back in that moment? It's like, no, you can owe me one. You know, it's not that important. What's important is the exchange and where it comes from. If it's in my heart to give you something for nothing in return, that is a service. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I have to do it for everybody, right? For some reason, I'm drawn to do it for you. Now, I might, because I am who I might be asking myself questions like, why do I want to give it to Angelica, but not to Joe? Is there something there that I'm detecting? Do I have a preference of one for another? Am I withholding a service to Joe because I don't know, I don't like Joe and I like Angelica? I mean, I'll ask those types of questions of myself, but ultimately I've learned to trust that. I know when I'm giving and why I'm giving as being an okay situation. But if it feels later like I betrayed myself, then I'm not doing myself or you or Joe or anybody else a service. And I may be actually in some way disempowering you by giving you something for free where I might charge Joe for it. Because my perception of you is that you needed it and you couldn't pay for it. When all along you really could care less one way or the other, and you got plenty of money, you could have given me the money. You didn't want to, right? And now I'm taking away your ability to pay for something that you actually want and need. But I was more coming from a place of my own self image. So it's a very funny,
See,
convoluted web, you know?
that's where I have a problem. I mean, I don't know if this is part of this particular meeting, but it might turn into counseling. I I know the value of money, and I know that when people pay for it, they respect what they got and they have more value for it. But some part of me, because I probably was convinced for so many years,
Mm-hmm.
feels like I'm being a little, in a sense, and not expanded when I decide whether I want to give it for free or not. You know what I mean? It's like
Say
when you're
more.
expanded person, your big soul, you're like you
Mm-hmm.
got so much and you just give it away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
because I don't want to do that, I feel belittled.
Hmm.
Like I have this contradiction within me, and and from the other hand, I understand I don't have all that resource to be spreading around just because people think that's how I'm supposed to do it to feel
Right.
big about
Right.
myself.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, deep inside, I think it also comes from the Soviet upbringing because that's what they taught us to do. Like
Mm-hmm.
money wasn't really something of value, although
Everything for the
it's not.
motherland and all that.
Huh?
Everything for the motherland and all that.
Right. And it wasn't practiced in my family. My father was super money oriented. Yet he would always, if I asked him to buy me something, he would always say, "Oh, you have to be very humble in the eyes of God. Like you don't have to wear something. You don't need that because you have to be humble." Like
Mm-hmm.
he was putting these, although I didn't resonate to these ideas and I hated them when he would say that, but the idea that you have to be poor in the eyes of God, it somehow sticks in your subconscious mind, and it's so hard to,
I get it.
yeah,
I get
yeah.
it. All of this, as far as I'm concerned, has to do with boundaries. Yeah. Where's the threshold? Where's the limits? Where do I give? Where do I receive? Are you as willing to receive as you are to give?
Not as much. I like to pay for everything I receive because I feel that everyone has to get paid for what they do. Although I do have a strong belief system that I um, my life is abundant, and when I need something, something will come to me, and it does come to me in many different sort of ways, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But with people, I try not to take anything for not paying for it.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything there that is rooted within you that the reason that you might not want to do that is because you want to be owing somebody something?
Well, that's too, yes. I don't want to own anyone anything. I want to respect their time and energy that they put into it. And I also don't want to look as a needy person. I noticed every time someone asks something for free, it's like they just trying to use the system.
Mm-hmm.
I have a hard time with beggars
Mm-hmm.
in general. I
Right.
used to be this heartfelt person who would always give money to everyone who was begging until I started dating someone who grabbed my hand at some point and said, "How could you? Why are you supporting this limiting?" Like he didn't say it that way, but that's what he meant. You supporting this person to be a beggar.
Mm-hmm.
And I years later, I didn't appreciate that at the moment. I thought you're just greedy bastard. You just don't want to share. But years later, I saw value in his words, and he's correct,
Certainly.
right?
Better to
And I
teach a
don't want to be
person to
that one
fish.
who is consciously doing that.
Right.
Sometimes my friends ask me for help, not friends, I mean acquaintances, in terms of healing, and they say, "Oh, but I have a hard time paying for it now." And I feel like, no, you don't. I know how much money you make. I know your expenses. You just don't want to pay for it, and you're hoping I'm going to give it to you for free. And I tell them, sorry, I don't do that for free. It's just because it feels like as if they want to just use me.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And
again,
nobody wants to be used. I guess, yeah, it's a boundary issue.
developed a well attention span. If I'm interested into something, I can put hours of my attention into it and allow it to work on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I know lots of people have an attention deficit, and
You
that's
don't.
why they have a problem doing many things at once.
Right. You don't. Not from my perspective.
No, and I've noticed that attention is the most important thing, especially if you're doing spiritual work, if you
Right.
know how to direct your attention. If you don't, you're going to be all over the place, and you can control what's happening, and you won't have any. And on top of that, if you have issues with boundaries, then you're gonna get a lot of things you don't want in your energy system, right?
You will. And you can also put a lot of your own stuff in other people's energy systems because of your, whatever your motivation is for doing that. There are a lot of people in this type of work who
I've
are
seen it.
happy,
Yeah,
yeah, happy
yeah.
to manipulate others through this.
Right. Yeah, I've seen, like, I mean, I've seen it on an energetic level. I've seen the chords that a person asked for help and they got a healing, and then the connection, the hook is there, and the person that did the healing continues to leave off somewhat of their energy. It's just crazy.
It's
Yeah.
draining, is what it is. And it's usually done by a distorted self image and an unknown motivation that still resides within the subconscious. Sometimes
They're
that,
not even aware of it.
right.
Some
Sometimes
healers that do that, they're not aware of it.
that's right. They give and give and give because they have a positive self image, that they need to maintain.
And then it comes from somewhere they, I don't know, like did unhealthy healing, and it supports them afterwards. It
That's
just,
right.
it's healing is very iffy business, honestly.
I agree with you.
Very careful where you work with, how you do it. The boundaries are super important, and closing everything off in the end is super important too.
And knowing why you do it,
Exactly, yeah. So
knowing your own motivation, that applies to just about everything. I'm not
right.
saying anybody's motivation is bad necessarily, but some motivations are more healing than others. Some
Yeah.
motivations are more elevating than others.
And I've seen healers say, "Oh, I did so much work on them, and they don't even uh, they didn't take all the advices I gave them. I feel like I did all this work was wasted." Like, that's your ego talking because you want a like final result. In reality, you got paid for it. Why are you concerned? It's their life. They will figure
Right.
out their stuff. So I see a lot of people that do healing work are so attached to what they do. They want to see, like, they want this fulfillment of their ego, that what they're doing is big and enormous, and they feel good about it. And I struggled with that in the beginning too, but then I've learned that this is my ego is trying to grasp on end result. But I gave the person at the moment of the flow what came to me. I asked their permission. They paid me. Goodbye.
Mhm.
That's how I look at it. If they need more help, they'll come back. But I don't continue following and seeing. Did you do what I advised you? Did you change your ideas? Did you do this? Did you do that? I don't do that. No, I don't get attached to it.
That will
And
serve you very well as a tour guide and a healer. It's
yeah.
not only not draining, it's also gives you plenty of room for understanding where your boundaries are, right?
And every person has their own boundaries also, right?
Absolutely.
Maybe the seed I planted needs years of, what's the word, when you put seeds in the water and wait for them to, what is it? What's the word?
Germination and
Right, right. For
fertilization,
some
right?
people, it just takes years before they realize that what I was saying actually makes sense, which certain things in my life took years too before I understood something that was correct, that somebody taught me at some point. So everyone has their own pace of how they develop.